So one guy we want to ask you about before we get you out of here, because we know you have a busy day, is just Drew Gilbert.
He's a good player. Plays center field. He's got a plus arm. He's got some power. So Drew's going to be fine. It's just you feel bad that a guy missed that much time his first year in AAA. What I told him was, like, just go try to have good at bats. Like, you can't make up for lost time. You're not going to drive in 70 runs this year. You don't have enough time. You know, every hit is only one hit. It doesn't count as two, so don't try so hard. Home run's still only one hit. And it just kind of slowed him down a little bit. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of juice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Plays with his hair on fire. Real quick, what about Luisangel Acuna?
Talented guy, you know. You know what the thing about Louis is he can really catch the ball. I mean, he's played 3 premium positions, like in a rotating basis, short, second, and center field. There are not many guys that can do that, and he plays them very, very well for a young guy, and he understands things well. They talk about guys who have a good clock in their head. When they field a ground ball, they know when they have to throw it hard and when they can just get it over there, and he does that very well. I think Iglesias helped him with that. You asked me that earlier, like Iglesias had helped Vientos. He helped Luisangel Acuna. He helped Mike Vasil. He helped some of our pitchers just with his experience and stuff. So anyway, Louis is going to be a good player, and so is Drew, and we have other guys here that are going to be good players too.
Hey, it's Vito Calisi, Jonathan Barron. We're meeting at the Apple, but we're nowhere near the Apple right now. We are in Lehigh Valley, where the Iron Pigs play, and we're here with Syracuse Mets manager Dick Scott. Dick,
Appreciate
thanks for
it.
coming with us.
Yeah, anytime.
Now, just, first question, you're obviously the AAA manager. This is the final stop before these guys get to the big leagues. What's it like just having to handle that transition of helping these guys get ready for that big next step in their lives?
Yeah, I think it's kind of two-dimensional, really, because you have your prospects coming through the system that have never been in AAA, so you're trying to get them indoctrinated the best you can, trying to get them a little bit of a feel playing around older, experienced guys, which they don't really get all the way through AA. You know, you have a smattering of maybe a AAA guy who's back in AA, but you think about this too, like Acuna's coming here as a 22-year-old, Mauricio last year as a 21-year-old playing with 34, 35-year-old guys. It's all new for them. The 6-year free agents, it's a little different, where you're trying to tweak their game a little bit, whether it's a pitch here or there or something with their swing to get them to the major leagues to help our major league team. And it's really, those are the kind of the yin and the yang of what we do every day.
And you've been in baseball more than 40 seasons, so you've had an incredible career, major leagues, minor leagues. You were farm director at one point for the New York Mets. How much has player development changed during your 4+ decades in baseball?
Yeah, it's changed, because when I first came in to the game, it was really all baseball. And then with analytics starting and being able to quantify things, I think it gave you another look at what you were seeing with your eyes, and I think that helped. I think there's been a big change probably in the last probably closer to 20 years now, with just a lot of information. And I think some places that I've been, that you kind of get away a little bit from baseball, and you have to learn baseball. And there's a lot of things that you can take from the information that's helpful. And we have a great group of people here that do assist us in that. And then it's just the application. That's probably the most difficult thing. I think if you ask anybody in baseball, okay, you have all this information, what do we do with it? And it's just figuring out the application, because every player is different. Every player is going to absorb that information differently. And that's the key to coaching, is like, how much now can this guy handle?
And Vito talked about this being the last stop, and you've come across a lot of big prospects. Francisco Alvarez, Ronnie Mauricio, Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, many others, some on this very Syracuse Mets roster. But also, like you mentioned, they're the journeymen who sometimes linger in AAA, who put up huge numbers in this league. AAA is a big run environment, both the PCL and the International League. So from your perspective and an organizational perspective, how do you tell what's real and what's not real? And how do you know when a guy is ripe and finally ready to make that next step?
Yeah, I think you can tell. I really do, because it's tougher in the PCL. I mean,
right. PCL's insane.
It's insane. I think it's harder to gauge hitting there, because everything is a hit. You play in ballparks where it's rarefied air, yep. And I can go through it. It's Reno, it's Salt Lake, it's Albuquerque, it's El Paso, it's Vegas. When we went to Vegas as the Mets, we challenged our pitchers. If you can pitch here, you can pitch anywhere. And you're going to have to get some thick skin pitching here, because balls that are hit hard on the ground are all hits, unless they're hit right at somebody.
It was like concrete, because the infield baked, right?
It's super hard everywhere. And everything in the air that you think is a fly ball has a chance to go out of the ballpark. Literally. It's really hard mentally. But We challenge guys, hey, Cincinnati's got a small ballpark. Colorado, the ball flies. Right field in Yankee Stadium, the ball flies. There's all kinds of Houston, big left field, all kinds of ballparks in the big leagues where the ball flies. So if you can compete here and say you have a game where you give up 3 runs in the first inning and you think, your game's going down the drain, like, pick it up. Let's go. Grind through and get to the 6th inning. And our guys did a good job. We had DeGrom there. We had Syndergaard there. We had Steven Matz there. All those guys. Rafael Montero pitched there. So I think as far as pitching goes, like, you really had to step up. Hitting-wise, you have no idea. Guys hitting 340, and you don't know if he can even hit in the big leagues.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the offense. And that's like, you look at some leaderboards in AAA. I remember, I think it was last year, Cole Calhoun was AAA Barry Bonds. And it's like, how can you tell what's real and what's not real? I mean, Mark Vientos tore this league up, and then he now in the big leagues he could hit 30 home runs this season and 400 plate appearances or so. So is it more challenging from the offensive side to be able to decipher, like, yeah, this bat is actually major league ready?
I think the International League is a little easier to tell. That's always been the separator. I played in the PCL, I played in the IL. I think the consensus is more of a pitching league here. Even though, and we can talk about this if you'd like, the ABS changed that last year.
We were definitely going to get to that.
This year it's better. It's more fair, I think. It's more consistent of a regular strike zone. Still probably not as big as the Major League, believe it or not, and they're working on that. But the IL has always been pretty fair, and I think that's why, like, the Mets always needed and wanted to get back here, just because you can really tell, a guy hits 280 in this league with 17 homers and drives in 70 runs. That's a really good season. And so guys like Vientos, Mark's a home run hitter. He's been a home run hitter. Really happy for him. He's found his stride. He's gotten comfortable being a big league player. And we talked about it last year that if a major league team just put Mark Vientos in their lineup and they weren't, kept working on his defense, which he did, by the way, like, this guy's going to hit you 25 homers. He's got tremendous power. And Ronnie Mauricio probably the same way. He got hurt, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk to you about Mark Vientos because what's it like for you? You have 2 very different moments with Mark Vientos this year. You have one moment where you're telling him he's going up and it's probably just going to be for the weekend. And then you have that other moment where you're telling him this is his chance. Right. And then to watch him take that chance and just turn into what looks like a legitimate superstar.
Yeah, I think it started before that because Mark's thing was like the work ethic. You got to put the work in. And he would offensively. Loves going into the cage, loves getting his reps. And we were telling Mark, you got to get out here every day and get your ground balls. We're gonna just smash balls at you. We're gonna do live fungos where somebody flips it up and another guy swings as hard. You just have to do it. You've got to get better. You don't have to win a Gold Glove, but you got to make those routine plays. You do that, you're gonna be set. And he bought in. Last year he was a little hesitant. This year he was more focused. And he did it. I give him a lot of credit. He's played good third base up there for the most part.
He's played a great third base. And you mentioned the work ethic. We were in spring training. I was there, I think, February 4th this year. And it was always Mark and Colin Hetzler and Jeremy Barnes and a couple other guys. But Mark was always in the cage. So you talk about that hard work. It's an impressive work ethic that he has. Now, at the end of spring training, the Mets signed J.D. Martinez, and Mark Vientos was optioned back to AAA. From your perspective as the manager, and we all know how the story has unfolded since then, but how did Mark handle that, and what kind of a learning experience do you think it was for him that helped pave the road to success that he's had?
The anticipation coming out of the spring training notification that he was coming down was he's going to be a little salty.
Sure.
But he called me and he said he was going to take an extra day to get here because he had some personal things, which is not uncommon for anybody. And when he came here, he was good. He really was. It was like, hey, I'm here to work. I got to get some things done, and I want to get back there. And he worked at it. I give him credit. And we had other guys, that, on the flip side, and we're kind of shifting gears, but Jose Iglesias came here as
you see my jersey, right?
Yeah, I know. I saw it on the way in.
You heard OMG before anybody, probably, right?
What's that?
You heard OMG before anybody.
Well, we heard it here. We heard a couple of his other songs. He was great.
The Father's one is great.
Yes. But the thing about it is, like, this guy's you got your 11 years in the big leagues.
He was an all-star.
Already in the bank, right? And this guy's been an all-star. He's been a good player. The guy can really catch the ball. He's had good years hitting. He's stolen bases, all this. And for me, I got to know him a little bit in spring training, quality person. He had a bit of a reputation in years past when he was younger that he was maybe not the best teammate at times, and it couldn't have been further from the truth here. But that guy worked at everything. He worked on his swing mechanics. He got with Colin Hetzler on some bat speed training. He worked with Adrian Textor, our infield coach, and I on his pre-pitch. And this is a guy that like could have told us just like, hey, not doing it. And he's like, what do you guys see? What do you got? He was asking for analytic information and the metrics on his first step, all those things. And I'm telling you what, that guy worked as hard as anybody and worked himself back to the major leagues, where he's done great.
Now, how important is it to have a veteran like that around some of the younger players? And your roster right now still has them. Mike Brasso,
Yep.
Yolmer Sanchez, Pablo Reyes has played in the major leagues, many others. Last year, you had Luke Voigt. I know he set the example, no sleeves.
Yep.
How important is it to have those kinds of guys?
I got a call from MLB, by the way, on the no sleeve, the no T-shirt.
Did you really?
I did. They were like, hey,
they loved it, right?
that's probably not how that uniform should be worn. You know, it was just kind of like, hey, those uniforms are supposed to have a T-shirt underneath them, and I was like, well, you know, the Cincinnati Reds have done it with the Renzo.
Dietrich
and
did it.
Yeah, well,
Yasiel
of course, Double D did it. But this year we wore them, and David Stearns was here. And the clubhouse guy came into my office and said, hey, just so you know, there's like 4 or 5 guys out there with no T-shirt underneath. And I look over at David, and so I'm like, let me go check and see what we have. So I walk out there, and the guys are like, come on, Skip, let's wear them. He goes, they're like, you need to wear it too. And I go, no, I'm not wearing that. But everybody wore no sleeves that night. I don't know if you saw the game.
Yeah.
So it was the weirdest part was Dom Hamill was our starting pitcher.
And he wore no sleeves, right?
Yeah, that was a little hard to get used to, but it was fine. Guys had fun. We won the game. It was all good.
So we wanted to throw out some names that you have, guys that you've coached this year or even in the past, and just get your opinion on them, what you've seen from them. And one of them is probably the most talked about player in the Mets system right now, being Brandon Sproat. So what has just been your opinion and what your insight on Brandon Sproat since he got up here, which wasn't even that long ago, but just climbing through the system, getting here?
Yeah, I mean, he has great stuff. I mean, the first game he came out, he was throwing 98, 99, 100, and he's got it in his tank. I feel like AAA sometimes gets a bit of a bad rap because it's kind of like all these recycled players and you have older players. However, through my years, I've found it to be a really good proving ground for younger players because you can look at any game that we play and each lineup probably has 5 or 6 guys, sometimes more, that have already played in the major leagues. They're just back and forth guys. Maybe they're a 4A guy. Maybe they're a young prospect like Vientos that went up and came back last year that haven't quite established themselves. So you can't outstuff the players anymore. They're just better players. And, I think he's come up here and he has showed very good stuff, which he has, but he's also found out that if I make mistakes in the zone, I'm going to get hurt, that these guys don't swing at all the pitches they do in A-ball and Double-A. They're going to be more selective, and I'm going to have to work harder. And Tidwell had a game last night where he's another guy that has power stuff, but like it's one thing to throw it in the strike zone, but it's another thing to throw it in the strike zone where you want. Like, do I want it in this lower part of the strike zone? Do I want to climb? It's just not throwing it in the strike zone because some of those become misses in the zone and they become hits. And Brandon's going through that a little bit, but he's got a lot of self-confidence. I think it's good that guys, like I talked to him after his previous start where he had a 6-run inning, or 6-run outing, and I said, to go through this here is invaluable, even though it doesn't feel good. It's way better to go through it here where you can find a solution to it instead of doing it in the big leagues. Because you do it a couple times in the big leagues. I said, do you know what type of pitcher you are? And he goes, AAA. And I said, yeah, they're going to send you back to work on more stuff. So, and it's always a point of reference where, hey, when I get to this point, this is what I did to get out of it. And same with hitters. Guys have to go through that.
I think we have a lot more guys we want to run through, but I feel like talking about Brandon and Blade, it's probably a good time to bring up the ABS and the impact that it has on pitchers. Coming from Double-A, where there's good old-fashioned arguments between managers and umpires. We saw Reed Brignac.
The good old days, yeah.
The old days. I'm sure you missed that a lot.
Not so much. I'm older now, but when I was younger, yes.
Okay. We saw Reed Brignac get tossed from a playoff game last year. I think that was a base runner interference call. Not quite the same, but how large of an impact does the ABS system have on all pitchers, but especially younger pitchers who might be trying to flash the stuff a little bit more, and you're not able to fool umpires at this level like you used to be, and just the overall impact that the ABS system is having on the game, because it's coming to Major League Baseball.
It is. I think it'll be 2026, no later than 2027. I have no insight on that, but I just feel like we've had it 2 years here. We've tweaked it twice. So first, and there's a lot of moving parts to this, so I'll make it quick. Last year, We had six. In fact, earlier this year, we have a 6-game series. First 3 games were all ABS. Whatever.
That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday usually.
Right, but not anymore. That changed. So now, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday was umpire call the game, and you challenge. Like if the pitcher doesn't like the pitch, the catcher, you just tap your helmet and say, I'm challenging.
And for the challenge system, and I'll let you continue in a sec, that's only batter, pitcher,
And
catcher that can, dugout has no say, right?
No,
Cannot
if
get
you allow
involved.
challenge it, if the umpire hears it, he won't allow the challenge. But,
Interesting.
But like you have to do it within 3 or 4 seconds, so I don't know what the deal is, right? But I think it's best with the challenge system, because now the umpire gets to call his game. If you're having a good game, you have a good game.
Yeah.
You're not going to get challenges. But if you're having a bad game, people are going to know it. And the players are going to be like, that's been my whole career. When I've had a bad game pitching or hitting, everybody knows it. And I'm front and center, and I have to answer questions after the game. So now I feel like if you're having a bad game and you have 5 or 6 pitches overturned, then, you had a bad game. I think it also will, the guys who aren't maybe the most consistent major league umpires, and there's a lot of very good umpires there, instead of complaining about them, it's going to be like, hey, this guy had 5 or 6 pitches overturned in the first 5 innings last night. That's a lot in in any game. Yeah. But I think the umpires have embraced it. The players have. The pitchers always feel like the zone's too small.
Right.
The hitters feel like they know the strike zone. We have one of them standing over there. But they can improve on that as well. If I had to rank them, catchers are the best at it, as they should be.
Yes.
Hitters are next. Pitchers are a distant third of the 3 that can challenge.
Do you feel like some pitchers are way overzealous with it? I feel like the pitcher's always like, it's a strike, challenge that, let's challenge it.
You know why, though, mostly is they see the frame from the catcher. So the catcher, the pitcher makes his pitch, and if he's got a little head movement or he's not in perfect position, he sees the catcher frame the ball, and he's like, that's a pitch. I'll give you a quick example. We had a pitcher here last year. He had walked 5 guys already in the game. He had thrown 7 straight balls. He threw his 8th ball, which he challenged, and we're like, what is he doing? He was wrong, and we're like, we've talked to our players, like there is strategy to it.
Yeah.
Like you got to pick like a high leverage situation. We had a challenge in this game last night by their team. They with 2 outs, nobody on base, first pitch to hitter was challenged, and like you got to be right on that, because we only have 2 now. We used to have 3. They cut it to 2, so you have to pick your spots.
So one guy we want to ask you about before we get you out of here, because we know you have a busy day, is just Drew Gilbert. And what's it like working with a guy who, obviously this has been a shortened season for him dealing with injuries, but just working with a guy when they're going through struggles they might not have dealt with in their career so far?
Yeah, I mean, he played the first week and missed 3.5 months. He's back now. We had him on kind of a bit of a restricted program. He's play 7 innings, then DH. So he's back to full strength now, which is great. He's starting to hit his stride a little bit. But you think about missing that much time and coming back and try to get your timing hitting. And he struggled early. He's hit some home runs. He hit 3 homers last week. He's hitting the ball better now. He's a good player. He plays center field. He's got a plus arm. He's got some power. So Drew's going to be fine. It's just you feel bad that a guy missed that much time his first year in AAA, but he's got 3 more weeks to make some ground up. And what I told him was, like, just go try to have good at bats. Like you can't make up for lost time. You're not going to drive in 70 runs this year. You don't have enough time. Every hit is only 1 hit. It doesn't count as 2, so don't try so hard. Home run's still only 1 hit, and it just kind of slowed him down a little bit. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of juice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Plays with his hair on fire. Real quick, what about Luisangel Acuna?
Talented guy, You know what the thing about Louis is he can really catch the ball. I mean, he's played 3 premium positions, like in a rotating basis, short, second, and center field. There are not many guys that can do that, and he plays them very, very well for a young guy, and he understands things well. They talk about guys who have a good clock in their head. When they field a ground ball, they know when they have to throw it hard and when they can just get it over there, and he does that very well. I think Iglesias helped him with that. You asked me that earlier, like Iglesias had helped Vientos. He helped Luisangel Acuna. He helped Mike Vassell. He helped some of our pitchers just with his experience and stuff. So anyway, Louis is going to be a good player, and so is Drew, and we have other guys here that are going to be good players too.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. You can follow this podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Meet at the Apple. I'm on Twitter at Vito F. Khaleesi. John is on Twitter at JMB9191. Dick, thanks so much.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.